Good evening. Let me continue. I was disconnected, so let me share a few poems about Henry Box Brown. And the first one I'd like to share is When. An autumn breeze blows maple leaves while I sit on my mother's lap. Slavery is a cruel wind, she says, sweeping children away from parents, scattering families far and wide. She shivers and holds me close. Work. Like my 7 sisters and brothers, I am put to work as a child, first serving my master and mistress, then learning plantation chores in the hot sun. Every few months, I trudge 20 miles with my brother carrying grain to the mill. Brutality. Trek to market, take my brother and me past plantations where we encounter other blacks, some shoeless, coatless, nearly skin and bone and burlap shirts and threadbare pants. We share our bread and meet with them. In the slave quarter, they recount the savage beatings that many of them got for having been baptized just the night before. Split. I'm 15 when my master dies and wills my family to his 4 sons. My parents, brothers, sisters, and I, flung apart as if dandelion puffs. I land in the young master's Richmond tobacco factory. He warns the overseer to never whip me. Richmond. A sea of red bricks rise from the James River. Slavery, the cornerstone of it all. See the slave pens, whipping posts, auction houses, storefronts, tobacco factories, and grist mills, all busy. Folks in packets and boats with cargo float along canals, people everywhere. Nat. After 3 visions, enslaved preacher, Nat Turner sees an eclipse as a sign. He leads an army of 40 plus slaves to kill 55 whites. Whites call them monsters and hang knife or shoot scores of slaves. Others are whipped, put in irons, or half hanged and pelted with eggs. Lawmakers pass stricter black codes, but rule out ending slavery. Nat Turner is tried, hanged, and skinned, but not before confessing. Fear. David Walker's appeal called for slaves to rise up. Nat Turner answers that call with rebellion, a massacre. Whites called it, so scared that they raised the military. But slaves face every day fear of the lash, of being sent for the South, fear of all families being sold off, fear of nerve, ever being free. When our black overseer dies, he is replaced by Stephen Bennett, whose peg leg won't let him sneak up to eavesdrop on the slaves. He gives hundreds of lashes for coming a few cents or pound short on a task. The next overseer, John F. Allen, if finished, when a slave who often sang Take sick. Alan has been dragged to the factory for 200 lashes. The whipping doesn't cease until the ailing man faints. Crop. In March, sow tobacco seeds in plant beds. Fertilize with fish meal late spring. Transplant to the field. Plow row by row. When the plants bloom, break off the tops. Pull suckers from foliage so leaves will grow. Late summer, split stalks 3/4 of the way down. Cut plants above the ground. Nancy. At work, days drag on like a long winter till I meet Nancy, an enslaved washerwoman whose laughter is the sweetest music I know. To marry her, I need permission from her master. He grants it. Promises never ever to sell her. Split us up. Me and my Nancy jump the broom. Family. Barely a year later, Nancy's master goes back on his word. She and my children change hands like seasons. Each master worse than the last. The last one, Mr. Cottrell, agrees to keep my family if I feed him, house them, and pay him. Small price, I figure. At First African Baptist Church, I joined the choir. Thank God for keeping my family and faith intact. Those of you that were watching earlier, I was disconnected, so I'm only continuing where I left off. So I've read a few poems about Henry Box Brown. I want to thank you for listening and watching Moments with Mary. Moments with Mary is hosted by the Book Gallery, located at 647 South Fieldwood Street. You may follow us on Instagram at Book Gallery Books. If you're in the Greenville area, or if you're traveling through Greenville, stop by the Book Gallery and browse and buy. Today is National Coloring Book Day. We do have some coloring books here in the store. Again, I want to thank you for listening and watching. And I'm so sorry I got cut off from my initial post, from my initial viewing, but I am continuing. So thanks again for listening and watching. Hope to see you next week. Goodbye.